Yields.
Would the gentleman agree that the gentleman from Prince William County's comment that he appeared in uniform while he exercised his First Amendment rights was inaccurate, and that, in fact, the nominee never, ever appeared in uniform when he expressed his First Amendment rights and discussed his sexual orientation?
Mr. Speaker, I would allow the gentleman to respond to his own questions.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Prince William, Mr. Marshall.
I will respond that I saw an NBC Tom Brokaw newsreel from 1993 in which Senator Nunn was conducting an inquiry down in Tidewater area, and unless there was some rejuxtaposition of individuals, somebody identified as Mr. Tracy Begland was indeed testifying before Senator Nunn. So while it may not have been on Nightline, I saw it the past 2 days, and I just would refer the gentleman to that, and I do have a date for that, and I found it on the internet, and I would just urge the gentleman to look at that.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman from Prince William County yield for a question?
Will the gentleman from Prince William yield to a question?
This gentleman?
Yes.
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask the gentleman, did he not say in a recent report or interview to the Washington Post, quote, because the nominee has a same-sex partner, he should not be allowed on the bench? Did the gentleman say that is the reason why he was not qualified?
We have a marriage amendment which says that marriage is only between one man and one woman. And I would stress to the gentleman that if a polygamist came and was an otherwise crackerjack prosecuting attorney, that behavior, action, set of relations would disqualify such an individual from nomination because your life would be a contradiction to the Constitution that you swear to uphold and defend. So that's why I think it's a disqualifying factor. I trust the gentleman disagrees with me, but that's my explanation.
Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman from Prince William yield to a question?
At 12:27, yes.
Gentleman yields.
Can the gentleman tell this body in the last 12 years how Mr. Thorne-Begland's having a same-sex partner in any single instance showed himself not to be anything less than a stellar prosecutor? Anything that he can point to in the last dozen years?
I haven't chased him around, following him for his activities or his professional competence, but I would just suggest to you right here, the activities suggest a degree of activism, and this is not all, I just put 6 letters to my colleagues here, that is incompatible with the judicial demeanor. Here, Gay Influence blog, Men of Influence, Gay Influence, RVA News, An Open and Honest Life, biography of Tracy Thorne-Begland, Wava TV, Tracy Thorne-Begland interviewed on the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, September 21, 2011. Richmond Times, Lies and Deceit Must End in Opposition to Ban on Homosexuals in Military. His case, which I would hope that the gentleman from the 74th District has read, Thorne versus U.S. Department of Defense, the claim that the First Amendment was controlling here, should allow him to remain in the military, was rejected as an unsound constitutional argument. So, and here it is, May 10th, 1993, NBC Nightly News, Sam Nunn, opposition to President Clinton's policy. And I have the YouTube reference here.
Mr. Speaker, would the gentleman yield for another question?
Will the gentleman yield for another question?
The last question.
Was the gentleman quoted accurately in the Washington Post when he said, quote, Mr. Thorne-Begland has a homosexual agenda that he would try to advance as a criminal judge, close quote?
I didn't say criminal judge because he's not a criminal judge so far as his misdemeanors. That may be accurate, but does the gentleman have an agenda? Someone who belongs to the Board of Equality Virginia, someone who was on the staff, at least if the reports are correct, of the, the National, what's that organization, Human Rights Campaign, someone who engages in these activities consistently, continually, in pursuit of one goal, I would suggest is an activist. So that's my conclusion, and I stand by it. So thank you very much.
Speaking to the nominee, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it must be 3 or 4 weeks ago that the gentleman from Prince William County, Delegate Lingenfelter, suggested that I look at a documentary on Loving, the Loving versus Commonwealth case, where the Virginia Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court ruled that, the Virginia Supreme Court had ruled that somebody who was of African American descent could not marry somebody who was a Caucasian. And he told me, and he suggested, Joe, if you look at that, it'll break your heart. I suggest, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the body, that maybe a year from now, maybe a few years from now, certainly a decade or more, we will look back and we will say that in this 21st century, the suggestion that we as a body did not allow somebody to take the bench because they're gay, and that's really what we're doing, is the same travesty that the Delegate Lingenfelter suggested to me, and I suggest it will be heartbreaking. The gentleman from Prince William County, the former military officer, Delegate Lingenfelter, talked about character and temperament and demeanor and courage and convictions and duty, all of which this gentleman has shown as a naval officer. In fact, he received a distinguished medal on the very day he left that service. But more importantly, our Commonwealth and our country is one of giving people. We value redemption. We think it's noble. And in the last 12 years, you look at what that person has done, and there's not a soul that can say that he hasn't distinguished himself in every aspect of being a prosecutor, to such a degree that members of the criminal bar, the civil bar, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges, when they can comment on it, have said this person would be an excellent jurist. Still, we deny this person an opportunity to serve on the bench because of his sexual orientation. I think if we deny this nominee that ability, we do the Commonwealth and ourselves a disservice. I hope that this body will support Mr. Thorne-Begland as a candidate for the judiciary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman